ChatGPT came out in November 2022, and you just go on the website, you type your thing in, and it will just produce these amazing answers. And people at the time said, oh, this is better than a search engine. These are answer engines. And then slowly, other services came out. Google caught up. Grok became a thing. And then you've got to pay for it. Or you don't have to pay for it if you cycle your effort through the various chat services that are now out there. And then they became apps, and they're on your phone. And then you get all the dire predictions about how AI is going to destroy creativity, when someone like myself, who, while I don't do a lot of videos on this channel as much as I want to, I am using AI for other channels that I'm working for. And it's allowing me to do much more and do it more quickly. So I actually enjoy using all of these new tools that are available to us. And even now I have a cut down version of an AI model on my Mac that I can use privately, and I don't have to use the paid services. Whenever I want to find out who the 8th president of the United States was, or how to do a conversion of 8 ounces into milligrams, because Americans are steadfast in using the fucking imperial measuring system. I've got to waste my tokens on understanding these things that Americans just don't update their knowledge for, which is a kind of microcosm of what I want to talk about today, because a lot of us are using AI, a lot of us are complaining about AI and don't want to use it, although a lot of people say it's a psyop from China, because in China everyone loves using AI. Well, I say everyone, I mean 85%, and that pretty much means everyone, whereas less than 50% of people in the US, I think, are against it, and they do believe that it's a psyop anyway, that Chinese are infiltrating the networks and putting out this mass hysteria that they're going to take jobs. Okay, but I actually find that I'm doing more jobs. But then at the same time, with all of this progress, and there is undoubtedly a lot of progress being made, because whether you like it or not, AI is changing how we're doing things. Heck, even to get into this volleyball court, you've got to use AI to book. There is no booth anymore. You've got to download an app, and then the system will figure out the best way to book for some of these facilities. But anyway, I don't use that. So while we can recognize all of this progress that is being made, in some ways incrementally, but in other ways massively, and I don't want to get into specifics because I'll be here all day, but what I do want to share is how I had to go to hospital for an issue. It's not a big deal. It's just something about my kidneys. I think I can get them both removed anyway, so it's fine. And I thought to myself, while speaking to the doctor, that I should know more. Well, sorry, I knew with foresight I should know more about this. And so I'm the kind of person who will look up issues about kidneys, and then from that, try and figure out, do some self-assessments, some self-reflection on maybe my diet or my lifestyle, things like that. But then I take that information, and I'm not using it to question the doctor and say, oh, you're wrong because the AI told me this, which I'm sure most people are doing, because then you find out that a lot of doctors don't really like it when you bring up, oh, I looked at it on ChatGPT, but I'm actually there to use that information as like a third voice in the conversation, because I'm dumb as shit, I don't know anything, but I'm trying to arm myself with knowledge, and then at least talk to the doctor and then say, well, what about this? Could it be that? Because otherwise, I'm just going in there and I'm like, yeah, okay, I think I can do that. And I just follow his narrative, or her narrative, sorry. Sorry for the women who are offended because I said the he pronoun, his pronoun first. Okay, so while I read up on it, and of course, Grok or Gemini will say, hey, I'm not a doctor, so please take this with a pinch of salt. I'm not bloody likely to, because a lot of it aligns with how I feel. But at least I understand some of the medical terms, some of the names of the medicine. I go to the doctor and I say, by the way, have you ever thought about this? Because I've spoken to AI. And as soon as you say, or as soon as I say repeatedly to 2 different doctors now, or no, three doctors, oh, I've spoken to the AI. There's this, they're not looking at me. They're sort of like, okay. And they're waiting maybe for an avalanche of bullshit to come their way. And I think I'm being quite reasonable. I'm also using a disclaimer, but at least I'm speaking to them, I would think, on a more informed level to make their job easier.
The sum of the square roots of any 2 sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
That's a right triangle, you idiot!
That's how I approach it. Again, I'm not there to question their expertise. I would never do that. But there is this reluctance. And it even goes as far as, so for example, medical tip. If you want to extend your lifespan, if you want to sleep better at night, then breathe through your nose. Because breathing through your nose doesn't activate certain urinary systems in your body. So if you keep waking up to pee, then breathe through your nose, because you'll have a less likely, you're less, how can I say this without sounding like a moron, although I already am, you're less likely to wake up and go to the toilet, okay? And I even have like a gum guard that I wear in my mouth. I boil it every night so I don't get some kind of bacterial infection. It creates a seal in my mouth, so it forces me to breathe through my nose. That's why it's so big. It's growing with all the extra nasal activity. But during the day, while I'm awake, I breathe through my nose. And the medical benefits of breathing through your nose versus mouth breathing has already been established. It's already out there. You can read it. In fact, you don't even need to look it up on AI. You just Google it the old-fashioned way. And I told my doctor this, and I said, when I breathe through my nose at night, I don't wake up to go to the toilet as much. And he's like, really? I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not even talking about AI anymore. There is a clear difference between nose breathing and mouth breathing. But maybe because he's a urologist and he's a specialist, maybe he doesn't understand the respiratory system. It is kind of weird. So I show him, and he actually read what the AI said, because I had to go to AI to quickly just say, hey, what's the difference between nose breathing and mouth breathing? So I'm doing this gesture. It means scrolling, okay? Sorry, I've recovered recently from the flu, and I've got this like urge to just keep coughing all the time. So I show him, he's like, and it just blew my mind that a doctor, caveat it, he is a specialist, didn't know about the difference between mouth breathing and nose breathing. And so that makes me understand why there is so much trepidation when I walk in to other doctors, specialists or not. One of them was a GP, and they're sort of sitting there, not making eye contact. They're like, okay, what is this moron going to say? Because I'm the doctor. I thought I was just kind of reasonable. And I'm sure they don't hate AI. I just don't think they have time to use it and learn about it. So it's an interesting contradiction that we have in society at the moment, in our multifaceted society at the moment. Because you've got simpletons like me who are taking advantage and trying to, I genuinely want to update my worldly knowledge, or my knowledge of the world. And I have the time to do that. And that probably is the crux of the issue. How many people have time to really study it? Now, they could be a single mother who's very busy, or a single father, and they don't have time. I've met other people here, and I show them Grok, and I say, you can just ask it questions and it will just answer. And they're like, okay. And they just don't know. So there is still enough people who don't realize the advantages of just having this app that is just basically an answer engine. But then you think the more educated someone is, then the more they would accept it, or the more they would use it. And in the medical field, in my one anecdote, one data point on a graph, doctors, my 3 doctors, don't seem to want to acknowledge it in a way, maybe because of ego, or they're just unsure. But then if I'm name dropping like a motherfucker and I'm making coherent sentences, that's a big difference between me and then someone who just says, yeah, but I read it on here, this, that, and the doctor has to deal with that bullshit. Anyway, I'm just noodling. I would be interested to know if you've actually used ChatGPT or Grok or something. I don't use Grok. It's an Elon Musk Nazi product. I don't use it because he's a Nazi. Anyway, I use Google Gemini because it's a multinational corporation that is just here for the benefit of humanity. Oh, okay. No, I use the Facebook. I use the Zuckerberg one because he's Jewish and I'm not anti-Semitic. Right. Well, anyway, let me know if whatever you use and how do you use it. I'm not saying it to just increase engagement on this dead channel, but I am genuinely interested how the everyday person uses it. Of course, I see people at work. I ask them, and they're using it for very, very basic things. But the conversation doesn't go any deeper. You can't sit down. I don't have time, or they don't have time to sit down for 10 minutes like we're doing and discussing it to find out from various angles how it's being implemented, how it's being ignored, how it's being seen as threatening, or it's being taken advantage of. I can't count on my 2 hands the number of ways I use AI. It's fascinating, and yet it's there. And I'm sure if you sit back and think about it, maybe even passively, you're using it as well. Indirectly. There we go, that's the word, indirectly. And those are my rough thoughts. I wanted to get a video out. I'm trying to do more on this channel, so please bear with me. I don't like how infrequently I post, especially since the channel got demonetized, because while I have made videos, I have 3,000 subs, but then I only get 100 views. And that's my fault, clearly, because not all 3,000 subscribers are watching my videos. Therefore, I get demonetized. And it's a bit disempowering. It is a bit demoralizing. And I've got to figure out some kind of mechanism to at least get re-monetized again. So the channel is going to change. The AI inside the YouTube system does give me advice. It doesn't give me views, but it gives me advice. The algorithm just assumes, okay, these 5 people didn't watch it, so that means the rest of the 50,000 million people on YouTube won't watch it either. So you've got to do better, Jonathan, because the AI told me to. At the moment, I'm trying to do 1 video a month. I'm really aiming for that because I've got so many other things to do. But if you're still watching at this part of the video, I do thank you. And just let it be known that not many of you have made it this far. I don't mean in life, I mean watching the video. Sorry, I didn't want to sound presumptuous or accusatory, judgmental. But there we are. And you'll see me in another video soon. Thanks for watching.